like to call the meeting to order, and we do have a quorum present. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from August 15th, 2019. Do I hear a motion to approve? Second. All in favor? Any opposition? Thank you. We have a hearing. David Rogers and Wayne Burke have applied for a conditional use permit on a property containing approximately 0.3 acres located at 441 East Main Street, Danville, Kentucky. The property is zoned general residential. Steve?
That's like the whole report right there. You said it. I'll just go over a couple items. You have a staff report in your packet, and there's some photos in there, and they're bigger on the screen, but you guys don't have to spin around. I think you're familiar with the property, and then the zoning map should be on there too. So I'll leave that one up and just go to the staff report, point out a few things. Interesting little side issue we'll just talk about real quick, but as you heard, this property is 441 East Main, zone GRB, or small lot residential. It's just 0.330 acres, so it's a pretty small lot, and again, the applicants are asking for a bed and breakfast. And the reason, if you turn to page 2 of the staff report, the GRB district allows basically single-family uses, but as a condition, you can see it allows bed and breakfasts, duplexes, other things. And if you turn to page 3 of the staff report, this is kind of where it's a little different. Their intention's more short-term rental is actually what we're doing, and it technically will be what we call a hosted short-term rental. So I want to walk you through these terms. The zoning ordinance today says the word bed and breakfast, but we've had to, we've got what we call Airbnbs out there. They're close enough for us as far as discussion. Bed and breakfast, Airbnb, the difference of, we're renting rooms. We might be providing breakfast. We might not be providing breakfast. But the zoning ordinance now has a term for short-term rentals. But in the version that we're trying to get adopted, that's still in the works, we get into some real detailed rules that'll be different for bed and breakfasts than short-term rentals. So at this point in time, we've got definitions for both, but really don't have rules for either. So they're asking for a bed and breakfast CUP, and it's authorized under the ordinance, but it's really going to operate as more like an Airbnb, and I'm going to walk you through it specifically a hosted type. So on page 3, you see our definitions, and these are currently adopted in the book. You see the difference between a bed and breakfast establishment and a bed and breakfast home. The state law created 3 kinds of bed and breakfasts: a home, an inn, and a farm stay, and we didn't put the farm stay in here. And then you see our definition of short-term rental. And that's the industry term, and everyone else calls it Airbnbs, but that's actually a brand. Short-term rental is what those are, just as they sound. They're short-term rentals. You're renting a facility by the room, by the whole house, less than 30 days in nature. And then the 3 types of short-term rentals we have are hosted, unhosted, or dedicated. And that's in that definition. Hosted means like a bed and breakfast. Someone's on the property, you're renting by the room or maybe by a suite or by a floor, but somebody that owns the property or manages property is on the property at all the time. Unhosted means no one's there. It might be someone that's trying to sell their house, been relocated, and they Airbnb it while they sell their house, but it's not kind of permanently happening. It's just sort of in transition. Dedicated are the type where people go rent the whole house. Dedicated short-term rentals where I can go rent a beach house on Gulf Shores or lake house here in this county. You're renting the whole facility. You're not renting by the room, and there's typically not going to be a manager or property owner on the property. You're just renting it, putting in a code, or someone lets you in, and you got the whole property to yourself. That's our definition today, and we have all types already in this county. We think we have as many as 60 short-term rentals already out in the county. That's why we're trying to build some process. And we obviously have bed and breakfasts. And we also have some that do both and all and other kind of branding opportunities. Our applicants here today are basically wanting to take that property and get approval to do what we would describe as a hosted short-term rental. They would always be on the property. It would only be part of the year, and they would never exceed 3 guests at a time. So they fall well below the threshold of what typical Airbnbs might rent, several rooms, several parts, and it would be the hosted style, which closely resemble how bed and breakfasts operate too. So far as we're concerned, it meets the threshold to request the conditional use permit, even though we don't have this word short-term rental in our book other than a definition. The difference is they're not going to be a traditional bed and breakfast. They're not going to offer maybe those type of services, but they're still going to rent by the room, limited to the number of guests, and always be on the property. And again, it's only going to be a portion of the year. They plan on being in different parts of the country. I think you said in the winter, you guys are
Leaving the first, yeah.
they leave out of town. They're not going to then Airbnb it as a dedicated, which
Okay.
some could. They're shutting it down for the winter, and they'll come back and rent to just and they've committed to no more than 3 guests in their conditions. They've got good parking behind the house. Their desire is to, and their philosophy is, we want to be on the property when we're renting to guests to control those issues that we feel are important to maintaining the integrity and structure, and you know, they think that's the way they want to run this. Now, Airbnbs are running in all the gamuts that I mentioned, all different styles. So that's what's going to be unique in the future as you guys see more and more conditional uses. They're going to be combinations of bed and breakfast, Airbnb. Some are going to be dedicated, hosted, or combination, and you guys will have to weigh through those. But everything comes back to the same issues. Parking. Are they going to have any signage? What are other neighborhood concerns? And in this case, no signage. They've got parking, and it's limited to 3 guests at a time. And so that's pretty much everything in the staff report. You've also got pages on how you guys make findings. Their conditions are on page 4 about the guests and the parking. And then, of course, we got up or down motion that we typically put in the report. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. Again, the most confusing thing is we're kind of in the middle of a zoning ordinance rewrite. We've got definitions adopted, but not hard standards. If these short-term rental standards are adopted, the county's set to adopt them on Tuesday of next week, city the following Monday. We then would have 11 specific rules that relate to short-term rentals and new rules for bed and breakfasts too. And they're mostly related to parking and hosted, unhosted, dedicated, and the max rooms you can do in every kind of splits of those. But we don't have those rules today.
So if we approved this, would this site be grandfathered in without the 11 rules, or would the 11 rules apply?
They would actually meet, the style they're proposing would meet the rules.
It'd meet it anyway?
It'd meet the
Okay.
rules, yeah, because they're not doing the dedicated style. They clearly already have the parking. There's language about the Board of Adjustments can evaluate compatibility, and you guys are actually doing that. There's a standard about meeting building and fire codes, but the building code doesn't kick in until you start to rent more rooms, have more bodies on the property, so they wouldn't meet that threshold either. But we're putting some very specific rules into play. The biggest part of the new rules are where we're going to allow them, what districts and where. This district would actually be allowed under the new rules, but it would be a conditional use permit. So they meet that too. So I wouldn't think they would have to be worried about being called grandfathered in. They would fit right in with the new rules. There's still the other issues you all have to decide whether it's compatible and fits the neighborhood and those kind of issues. And again, the applicant's here if you have any questions for them.
Any
There may be
questions
other
for
folks in the
Steve?
audience that want to ask some questions or have concerns.
Any questions for Steve?
Yes, sir.
Should the property change hands to a subsequent owner?
We talked about that.
We can't foresee X
Yeah.
years in the
Yeah.
future.
Conditional uses run with the land. The statute says we're supposed to review them on a regular basis, make sure they're in compliance. You guys can impose a condition that we either call a sunset clause or a owner change clause. Sometimes they're hard for us to police, you know, enforcement falls on us. I think these folks probably wouldn't, we talked about that briefly, that if they ever left or sold it, would it follow? That's up to you guys if you want to put a condition like that this CUP is only good as long as they own it. If it ever changes hands, either has to be reapproved or it sunsets out. We see conditions like that all the time. They're hard for us to know, you know, but at the same time, it's not an unreasonable request, and we talked about it, and I think they'd probably be open if that's the direction you guys want to see them go, to make a third condition that it's only valid as long as they own the property. It's up to you guys.
And since we're in this position of in between new regulations and old
Could do that.
regulations, that might or might not be appropriate.
Yeah.
Have the neighbors been notified, and what kind of response?
We do exactly what we do on everything. We put sign in the property, we send adjacent property owner letters to the neighbors, and we put ad in the paper. I don't know how well the ad went, we didn't get the paper here, so maybe they didn't even see it, but the signs work, especially on Main Street. These applicants did something I wish all applicants did. They went out and talked to all the neighbors before they even filed their application, just to give folks a heads up on what they were talking about. And we did not get any calls, and there may be some folks here that have concerns, I don't know, but at this point, we definitely did our normal notice requirement. And again, I'll turn it over to them, or if you guys have any questions for them, or any neighbors that have any concerns or questions.
Any other questions for Steve? Any questions for the property owners? This one's awfully easy.
Yeah, we have no problem with imposing that. We would not.
Sir, you'll have to
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Wayne Burke.
raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the statement you're about to make are true and correct?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
We either go to church with or are friends with all our neighbors, so that wasn't a problem. We went and talked to them before we got our license to run the business. And we have no problem with, if you want to impose that third rule, we'll not transfer it as a business when we sell it. And we've had 5 clients so far, all involved with either center or some business in town or just visiting, and they were great folks. We've enjoyed it because we live there. So, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that desires to speak? Okay. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we would approve based on the sunset clause. In other words, if in fact that you decide to sell, that does not go with the property, that the new applicants apply, or the new owners apply. So that's, what else I would need on that motion?
The conditions that the applicant proposed, about 3 guests and 1 parking spot per guest, just,
That would be acceptable.
right.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, thank you. Any old business? New business, Smart Growth Workshop on November the 1st, 2019.
Yeah, just want
Steve?
laid to set your seat, and I think you guys have heard me talk about this, but if you haven't, and I've done something different, the draft agenda where we're at in this date and time is on the back, and it literally is still dated because it's still a work in progress. And as you know, the Planning Commission was asked to put on a Smart Growth one-day workshop. We partnered with Center. We have a committee that's been working for over a year. Bluegrass Tomorrow's emceeing the event, helping us be the event planner. And then, of course, planning staff, tourism, we're all involved in this. But the agenda's shaping up to be pretty impressive for a local in-house county event. I mean, this would qualify to me as something I'd see at a statewide conference be impressive. But we've got folks from UK coming in to talk about economic development, architects. We've got, you see down there at 9:50, we got David Tomes that developed the Norton Commons in Louisville. We got Holly Wiedemann down there after lunch that did the downtown renovations in Lexington. Brian Howard, the Owensboro Planning Director. Got Madison Silvert in here, who's the owner of the Hub Building. He's going to partner up with our new downtown master plan consultant that was just selected. Dr. Ryan Sandwick's coming in here to do an exercise for Junction and Perryville. It's an architect from UK. Dr. Allison Davis on economic development. We've got Clint Quarles, who runs the Kentucky PACE program, farm conservation easements. That's Ryan Quarles' brother. He's an attorney. And the whole idea is to talk about smart growth techniques, other towns, things that they've done to improve the quality of life in those communities, and see if we can integrate any ideas, techniques, or tools that we could bring home here in Danville-Boyle County. It's a free event to anyone that wants to sign up. Center's providing the rooms, Center's providing the food. Planning Commission's paying for some hotel rooms and some mileage, and the Bluegrass Tomorrow consultant, we're paying for that. And we want to get you guys signed up, and it qualifies for your training hours. You can get them all in one swoop. You know, you're supposed to have 8 every 2 years, and you can get them all pretty much in one day and have a free meal. So how often do you literally get a free meal? I mean, it's right there. So if you haven't signed up, we'll sign you up, because we can get online and sign you up. If you get online to sign up, that 11:15 window that you see there, those are breakout sessions. So you sign up, and you can show up at any point during the day. We don't care if you just come in for the lunch and hear Holly speak. But if you sign up, you're supposed to, there's a spot where you can identify which one of those breakout sessions you want to go to. Clearly, right now, just looking at the raw numbers, we've got about 75 people signed up. Most of the people who are signed up are going for this reimagined downtown Danville with Madison Silver and our downtown consultant. That one's the heavily attended of the 70-some folks that have signed up. But those are 4 or 5 concurrent breakout sessions. James Faust down there, number 5, he might have maybe a lonely session, but he's actually the APA Kentucky president of the American Planning Association Kentucky chapter, and he's from Kenton County, and he's going to be doing a project about a redevelopment project up in the Kenton County area. So all of these topics are interesting, I think, to me personally, and this is the type of thing I would see if I went to APA Kentucky. And if this was agenda looked like this, I'd go, and a lot of years I pass on that whole conference because they don't have any things I think of this quality. But to have David Tomes and Holly Wiedemann come into our county at the same day and talk about things of that magnitude and how they did projects like that, that's pretty interesting, I think. So hopefully you guys can all attend. It's Friday, November 1st at Center, in the Student Center. And if you haven't signed up, tell Lisa we'll sign you guys up. And I think Donna said she's already signed up already. So you can, there's a Facebook event page, and you have two. You go to the tourism site, there's a Facebook event page, and then you hit the registration. It takes you to a registration page where you can sign up and pick what sessions you want and all that kind of stuff. We didn't get down to food items, but we literally are talking about vegetarian, regular, and our intention was that people could even pick their food preferences, but we didn't get that far into the registration link at this point. But we are going to have those options, and we're mindful of food allergies and everything else. So Center's done an excellent job in hosting this event for us. So hopefully you guys can attend. It's going to be fun. Yes, sir.
Am I correct in what I heard by way of rumor mill that this is part of our downtown development incentive grant?
I don't know there's no grant behind this that I'm aware of.
In the development district, maybe I have the words.
There is the downtown master plan that's coming our way. Is the city's getting ready to kick that off. They're paying for that. They've hired a consultant, and they're going to be doing a downtown master plan about, things you can do in your downtown. That part of that involves the opportunity zone that's been designated for our community. And that's a federal designation that has developer incentives tied into it. It's kind of waning on down. It's got a window there. So some of that will be talked about, I'm sure. Opportunity zones, TIF financing, all those things will be talked about. But the downtown master plan is really going to carry that forward. They're going to start with a whole visioning stakeholder exercise for the downtown master plan as a designated boundary. And it's going to talk about what we could do downtown, and then ultimately what funding opportunities or financing opportunities are there, and that would go into those. I think that session with Madison Silver, who, by the way, he was Owensboro's, he's a Center grad, by the way. He owns the Hub building, but he was Owensboro's planning attorney for several years before he went out into the development world. He also was involved in a lot of development in Owensboro, and he's been working a lot in Raleigh, North Carolina lately. And then he owns a building here in our community now. And he's obviously interested in seeing some things happening in our downtown, and him and the consultant are paired for a reason there. And they'll be talking about their vision for things that possibly we could bring to downtown Danville to, take it to the next level, if that's possible. So again, that's the session everyone's signing up for, and I feel bad for the other speakers. It may just be me and Lisa in the other one, just to make it look like some folks are in the room. But these are all good topics, especially during that breakout session. So, and the president's going to, I think, give a welcome, as well as the mayor and the county judge too. So we still got a lot of, we're meeting Monday about rooms and mileage, and for me personally, I get to put event planner on my resume, so that's kind of cool. Wedding planner, I don't know what I'm doing.
Plan on leaving?
No, but I'm just saying, I'm gonna take as much work as I put in this, I'm taking advantage of the fact for too. It might be my next job, I don't know. I did this. I didn't do this. Jennifer Kirshner did this side. I did this side. So hopefully you guys sign up, and if you don't want to do it yourself, tell Lisa, and we'll sign you guys up, and we'll have your tickets and all that kind of stuff. It's gonna be fun.
Any questions? Any other new business? If not, I'll have a motion to adjourn.
So
I
moved.
motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's go home.